Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I went up to the 7-Eleven and picked up a different paper. Usually I grab their USA Today because usually I'm there on like Saturday or Sunday morning and it's all they have. But today they had the New York Times, and their motto is all the news that's fit to print. I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever really looked at a New York Times, but here we go. I'm sure I have it at a hotel. I don't know. So this is from Monday, December 1st, 2025. It's already December. Wow. So I just thought we could flip through it a little bit. There's a viewer who by the way, if you ever I'm going to tip Linda a little bit. I appreciate it. And there is a buy me a coffee link that you can go to, and it's called Buy Me a Coffee, but it's basically you just throw a little tip in the tip jar, and I really appreciate it. And there's a viewer, Jack, who has said he liked a newspaper, so I was like, I'll get a newspaper. Or there's also like a little thanks. When you go to comment, it's like a heart. That is called a super thanks, and you can tip there too. Just because I don't run ads, mid-roll ads, and so it helps out. All right, so what we have here, I don't know. I bet this newspaper is more serious than USA Today. What does it say about the weather? A storm will bring snow from Kansas to western Michigan and ice in Arkansas. Rain will fall along the Gulf Coast, and the southeast weather map appears on page B5. Snow. It's freezing where I am right now, like maybe literally, but it feels it. All right, Ukrainian civilians captured by Russia face special terrors. Oh, I bet. Ugh. Portraits of Ukrainian civilians held captive by Russia at the Media Initiative for Human Rights office in Kiev, Ukraine. At the beginning of the war in Ukraine, Mykola Zakhozhai, a 37-year-old father of two boys, jumped on his motorcycle and zoomed off from his house in the suburbs of Kiev. Kiev? I think it's Kiev. He told his wife he wanted to see what was going on with Russian troops who had just invaded their area. He did not come back that night, or the next, or that month, or the month after that. Ugh. That's so scary. I was in shock, said his wife, Oriana, and the kids kept asking, when's Dad coming home? Dad, a heating and water technician, had become one of hundreds of Ukrainian civilians taken by Russian forces from occupied areas of Ukraine and shunted through a constellation of Russian prisons in a new kind of gulag. I won't read all these articles, just some bits and kind of get a feel for it so that you can go get the newspaper. When I worked at Red Lobster in the 90s, I had a friend she was Russian. She was not brought over, that sounds weird, but she married a Mormon to come here. And her dad's, I don't remember if it was her uncle or her dad's friend, but he had written a book about being in the gulags. Oh my gosh. And so she gave it to me to read because at the time my husband was a playwright and we were kind of looking for ideas for plays. What a horrifying story, though. Horrifying. It's horrible. It's horrible, these gulags. Whew. Never did write the play, but interesting book either way. So yeah, there are a class of prisoners languishing incommunicado deep within the penal system of the enemy state. Some have died in captivity, and relatively few have been released. Those who have been freed, like Mr. Zakowski, I'm saying that wrong, say they were tortured, nearly starved, and tormented constantly. Ugh. That's rough. All right, what's this? Elite unit of Justice Department sees exodus despite wins. Success at the Supreme Court, but unease over fiery filings and close Trump ties. By the way, I should say, for anyone who's not from the U.S., the New York Times, I would say from some research of different media outlets, you will hear people say it's like super liberal. I think as far as their news goes, it's more middle of the road, maybe slightly leaning liberal. Now, their opinion pieces, their editorial, that probably leans more left or liberal, just so you know, just to be straight. Okay. So what is this about? Turmoil is growing at Solicitor General D. John Sauer's office. On a spring evening this year, more than 100 lawyers and guests filled the Justice Department's Great Hall to mark the end of an era. The invitation-only event celebrated the retirement of Edwin S. Needler, who, over a 46-year career in the office of the Solicitor General, had argued 160 cases on behalf of the government before the Supreme Court, a modern record. What are they getting at here? Okay, led by John Sauer, Mr. Trump's former personal lawyer, the Solicitor General's office has appeared to be an unusually functional corner of the Justice Department that has been rocked by mass departures and internal chaos. The office has racked up a record of wins on emergency applications filed to the Supreme Court that even liberal critics describe as impressive. But behind the scenes, people familiar with the office say it has been affected by the sometimes a word just shoots out of your head. Politicization. That doesn't sound right. Spreading through the rest of the department. All right, so they're basically saying the department is being politicized and a lot of the left or middle of the road people are leaving. Okay. So, something to look out for. With a pardon, a contradiction in a campaign against drugs. President Trump and his top aides have said that drug cartels present one of the most pressing dangers to the United States and have promised to eradicate them from the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, that's their, argument for blowing up the boats off Venezuela. They say they're drug cartel boats. As part of that effort, Mr. Trump signaled on Saturday that he was ratcheting up his campaign against drug cartels, saying in a social media post that airspace above and surrounding Venezuela should be considered closed in its entirety. Less than 24 hours earlier, Mr. Trump had announced on social media that he was granting a full pardon to Juan Orlando Hernandez, a former president of Honduras, who had been convicted in the United States of drug trafficking charges in what was seen as a major victory for authorities in a case against a former head of state. That pardon has not yet officially been granted. I wonder if he'll backtrack on that, because can you imagine after all the work they did to put this guy, to get him convicted? He's a head of state and they got him convicted. If he pardons him, that's not going to be a great look for him. The two posts display a remarkable dissonance in the president's strategy as he moved to escalate a military campaign against drug trafficking while ordering the release of a man prosecutors said had taken cocaine-fueled bribes from cartels. Why did that make me laugh? I don't know. And protected their drugs with the full power and strength of the state, military, police, and justice system. In fact, prosecutors said that Mr. Hernandez, for years, allowed bricks of cocaine from Venezuela to flow through Honduras en route to the United States. Oh boy. We have a quote. Okay, hold on. Let's just see what this quote is. We got to go to 810. It says, Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, called the pardon. What did he call it, you guys? What do you think? Unconscionable, and said that Mr. Trump's actions were more evidence of a bogus narrative around his strategy to counter illicit drugs. So there you go, and there's a lot more to that article too. Okay. Award-winning playwright who reimagined, that's Tom Stoppard, who reimagined Shakespeare. Yeah, Tom Stoppard, 1937 to 2025. Well, that's a pretty good run, I guess. I shouldn't say that. It's like how my parents are getting to be that age. Sorry. Tom Stoppard, the Czech-born English playwright who entwined oh boy. This paper has big words, real big words. Who entwined erudition with imagination, verbal pyrotechnics with arch cleverness, and philosophical probing with heartache and lust in stage works that won accolades and awards on both sides of the Atlantic, earning critical comparisons to Shakespeare and Shaw, has died at his home in Dorset, England. He was 88. The death was announced in a statement from United agents which represented him. No other details were provided. Probably drugs. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Because he's 88. That's a joke. Mr. Stoppard. Okay, he wrote Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and there are characters from Hamlet. I want to see that new movie, Hamnet. It's about nothing to do with this, but it's about Shakespeare had a son who died, who was named Hamnet. I think that's right. And it's about that. I'm sure it's very sad, but I bet it's good. Zillow quietly removes scores of climate risk from listing. I did not know they even had that. Did you know that? They don't anymore. Zillow, the country's largest real estate listing site, has quietly removed a feature that showed the risk from extreme weather for more than 1 million home sales listing on its site. Interesting. Unlocking a mail fortress. Oh, these are all articles that are in here. Okay, well, we'll see them as we go, I guess. Navigating holiday gridlock on social calendar. I don't have much on my social. No, actually, I'm going to a couple of Christmas shows and music things, comedy, but not really a whole lot, I don't think. Trump, this is today's top trending headlines, okay? Trump frees fraudster just days into 7-year prison sentence. President Trump has set free David Gentile, a private equity executive who had served less than 2 weeks of a 7-year sentence for his role in what prosecutors described as a $1.6 billion scheme that defrauded thousands of victims. Whoa. I don't really know anything about that. Okay, next headline. In announcing pardon of drug trafficker while threatening Venezuela, Trump displays contradictions. Okay, we just read about that. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social service system on Tim Waltz's watch. Let's see. Over the last 5 years, law enforcement officials say fraud took root in pockets of Minnesota's Somali diaspora as scores of individuals made small fortunes by setting up companies that build state agencies for millions of dollars worth of social services that were never produced. Ooh. Well, it sounds like they rooted it out, so that seems good at least. Bad. Several arrested as protesters block federal agents in Manhattan garage. What's this? Protesters were arrested on Saturday amidst scuffles with police officers outside a parking garage in Lower Manhattan, where dozens of federal agents had appeared to be gathering for an immigration raid nearby. The confrontation apparently foiled the raid. And then Cory Booker weds Alexis Lewis in private ceremony. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey celebrated his marriage to his partner Alexis Lewis in an intimate ceremony. Okay. Quote of the day. I was in shock, and the kids kept asking, "When's Dad coming home?" Oh, that's from the article at the beginning. Okay. What do we have here? I don't really know how this newspaper works, Facts of interest. Okay. What are the facts of interest? Almost half of the crab caught in Newport, Oregon go to Chinese markets, most by way of British Columbia, which has the facilities to store and ship them live. So are they like the Dungeness crab? Must be. The San Quentin Giants baseball team plays a 40-game schedule, all at home, against college, high school, and men's league opponents. Oh, that's interesting. So they send in high school, college, and men's league to play San Quentin Giants. Interesting. About 2,100 children have died of COVID since the pandemic began, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. Yeeks. That's scary. When the Tennessee Foxtrot Carousel, designed by the artist Red Grooms, went up in Nashville in 1998 with its 36 fiberglass horses drawn from Tennessee history, a ride cost $1.50. Is that still there? I don't know that I've seen that. Where is it? It's in Nashville. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. I think I have seen it. Is that in the park where the, what do you call it? Parthenon? Is that what it is? Anyway, they have like a replica of the Parthenon, I think. At least 26 data centers are under construction within 60 miles of Atlanta, and 52 more are planned. Wow. Data centers. For what? U.S. ticket sales from Wednesday through Sunday for Zootopia 2 added up to about 156 million, according to ComScore, giving Disney Animation one of the biggest Thanksgiving openings in its 102-year history. Wow. I didn't even know about it. I've never seen Zootopia 1. Christians, mostly Maronite Catholics or Orthodox, are one of Lebanon's 3 dominant demographic groups, along with Sunni and Shiite Muslims. Each holds sway in Lebanon's fractured politics and accounts for about a third of the population. Excerpts from the newsletter. Tiny love stories. No thanks. Vanessa Freeman answers questions on style. Mini crossword. How hard is this, guys? I'm scared. I don't want to look stupid. People ask me to do crosswords, but I'm bad. All right, tree, that's a symbol of Canada. Okay, I know that one. That's maple. Back street. How about alley? I'm writing in Sharpie, so I have to be correct. Kind of steak with a letter in its name. T-bone. Beer pong targets. Cups. Solo. I'm going to wait on that one. Blank Pinafore, Gilbert and Sullivan Opera. I should know that, but I don't. Okay, down. Show mutual interest as on a dating app. Match. 2 down. Bad or good kid. Mad City? I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I'll skip that one. Sit down heavily. Like plop. Plops. Sits down. Yeah, plops. That's got to be right. 4 down. Contact lens. 5 down. Look here. Eye. Okay. 8 across. Cups is the bong. Beer pong targets. 9 across. HMFs. Pinafore, is that what it is? What is this? 2 down again. Bad album. Good kid, Mad City. Bad. Oh, album. Like bad, like Michael Jackson's album. Okay. Hey, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. Do they have this on an app? I think they do. Like I play Wordle. We play Wordle in Connections with my family. And like, it's my mom, my sister, me, two of my sons, but I don't think they only play occasionally. And then my husband. I'm trying to think, is anybody else in there? I think that's it. And so we send them to each other just so for fun. And because you wouldn't keep doing it, if you didn't have that, at least I wouldn't. I'd forget. Okay. Auto industry was warned about lead poisoning from its battery. Oh yeah, I'm sure. But efforts to clean up the recycling process were stymied for years. At Ford Motor Company headquarters near Detroit, Philip Toyne, a shy Australian lawyer, warned executives in 2005 that the lead inside car batteries was poisoning people. I mean, I feel like I saw this on like 2020 or 60 Minutes, literally like 20 years ago. So no secret. Lead is an essential but toxic element of car batteries. As demand rose, the auto industry increased its use of recycled lead, but many recycling factories around the world were pumping toxic smoke into communities. Ugh, it's terrible. Mr. Toyne, records show, pitched a solution, a program in which inspectors would certify factories that operated cleanly. Car manufacturers and battery makers could then market themselves as buying only from environmentally friendly suppliers. It went nowhere, of course, because it would cost money probably. All right, well, this is one of those awful stories where poor people get crapped on. That's what this is. That is what this is. Unloading dead car batteries at a breaking yard in Lagos, Nigeria, where they will be hacked open with machetes and emptied of acid. Left an assembly line in 2008 at Hero Honda plant in India. Oh, that's what this is. Left. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. The company tried to buy batteries only from environmentally certified manufacturers, but the effort fizzled. Yeah, I'm sure it's hard. An investigation by the New York Times and the Examination showed that African factories have poisoned people while recycling lead to be sold to American companies. Children near one cluster of factories outside Lagos, Nigeria, had lead in their blood at levels that could cause lifelong brain damage, according to testing commissioned as part of the investigation. Jeez, it's terrible. Most car makers, including Ford, declined comment on findings, saying that they rely on their suppliers to follow the law and corporate codes of conduct. A few companies, such as Volkswagen and BMW, promised to start internal reviews. Something to look into. Netanyahu asked President to pardon him from trial. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, another word I have trouble, of Israel asked its president on Sunday to pardon him in his long-running corruption trial. A request that the president called extraordinary and that critics said would run counter to the rule of law. In Lebanon, Christians celebrate Pope's visit. That Pope, he's from Chicago. The new Pope. It's kind of interesting. This is more of that article about civilians held by Russia face beatings and hunger. It's just awful. How many people are we talking about that are being held right now? Do we know? Probably don't know if they're alive or not. I didn't like, this is why seeing like a newspaper like this is important, because I don't even know if I knew this was going on, honestly. How many people? Ukrainian officials say they have confirmed, you're not going to believe this number, that at least 1,700 civilians are in Russian captivity. Civilians, not military, civilians. The actual number, UN investigators said, is likely significantly higher because it is difficult to get information on many cases. Oh my God. Yeah, it's scary. That's scary. They would tell you about the bruises they would leave. A former civilian prisoner with his wife. Photographs of missing Ukrainian civilians. From left, a rally in Kyiv to draw attention to Ukrainian soldiers and civilians being held by Russia. Alexander Kononenko, a Ukrainian human rights official and former prisoner of war. Did I tell you guys that my friend, her son, he like is one of those guys he always wants to be a hero. And so when he was like 16, he joined the National Guard and then the Army. And anyway, I don't know what his stance, but as soon as the Ukrainian war started, he went and joined to go fight for Ukraine. And he was like stationed with some Canadian forces. And I think they were all volunteers though. It's crazy. He ended up getting hurt and was in a coma for a while. It's a wild story. I should have her on sometime. It's wild. Trump aides and Ukrainians meet. He's Mr. January, February, and March. What is this about? It's that time of year in Russia again when a special type of popular celebrity pinup calendar for the coming year can be bought at newspaper, kiosks, bookstores, and the like. The leading man? Why, it's President Vladimir V. Putin, of course, starring in his multifaceted role as father of the nation. Strong leader, religious believer, extreme sportsman, historian, dog lover, and lifestyle coach. Here's one of the editions of the 2026 calendar that features 12 images of and sayings from President Vladimir Putin of Russia. I feel like they're poking fun at this, but you know there's a calendar with Trump just like this, right? Probably with like AI images. I don't think he made it himself, though. I don't know if that one, if the government made it. Hong Kong fire spotlights foreign domestic workers' roles and risks. Oh yeah, that was terrible. Did you see that building? It's like a huge building caught on fire. It was a 16-story apartment with workers from Indonesia. Oh God, I can't even read all. That's terrible. As of Sunday, authorities reported at least 146 people had died and 40 were reported missing. All right. Indonesia undertakes efforts to rescue hundreds of missing. So I guess they were all in that building. 10 years after Paris Accord, climate denial is surging. This is a weird thing. This whole anti-science thing is so bizarre. It's like, why do you think you're smarter than weird? When nearly 200 countries signed the 2015 Paris Agreement, acknowledging the threat of rising global temperatures and vowing action, many hoped that the era of climate denial was finally over. 10 years later, it has roared back, arguably stronger than ever. As delegates wrapped the annual United Nations climate talks on November 22nd, those who have campaigned to reduce the use of fossil fuels expressed growing alarm that forces arrayed against them are gaining ground in the information war. Yeah. The oil, gas, and coal industries continue to downplay the scientific consensus that the burning of fossil fuels is dangerously heating the planet. It is a strategy that has been echoed by oil-rich countries such as Russia, Saudi Arabia, and, under the Trump administration, the United States. President Trump mocks global warming as a hoax, cheered on by a chorus of influencers online who regularly promote disinformation on social media platforms that once tried to curtail it. While such views have long been dismissed as conspiracy theories, their influence on the global policy debates has clearly grown. Yeah, I'm telling you, parts of Florida will be underwater soon. Lawmakers suggest follow-up boat strike could be a war crime. Yeah, this is a really strange story right here. I got this new ring. What do you? It's like little flowers. Anyway, a top Republican and Democrats in Congress suggested on Sunday that American military officials might have committed a war crime in President Trump's offensive against boats in the Caribbean after a new report said that during one attack, a follow-up strike was ordered to kill survivors. I think it was one of the first attacks, and they gave some kind of, I think the boat saw them. I could be wrong, but I think, and then started to turn around and go away. And then they shot at the boat, but it was full of people. It wasn't like it doesn't seem like a drug running operation because there were so many. It was like 24 people on board. And so they knew that people were still alive. So they went and took out the people. I believe is how that worked. The remarks came in response to a Washington Post report on Friday that said that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had given a verbal order to kill everyone aboard boats suspected of smuggling drugs, and that this led a military commander to carry out a second strike to kill those who had initially survived an attack in early September. Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree. That would be an illegal act, Representative Mike Turner, Republican from Ohio, and a former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, said on Face the Nation. Yeah, this is, I was trying to research these Venezuelan boat strikes to do a video just because I was like, I don't really totally understand what's going on. But I decided I don't know if I'll do that because it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, to put it to you just as simply as I can, they are shooting boats in the Caribbean, Venezuelan boats. President Trump and Pete Hegseth and the White House is saying that they are drug cartel boats. But there are some reports that they may be migrant boats or fishing boats. And even if they were drug cartel boats, the way they usually handle that is drive up next to them and then get on board and check it and see if they're drugs and then arrest them. There's things they do. And also, they're saying they're fentanyl. drug cartel boats, but fentanyl comes in through Asia up through Mexico. So it's not even like a place where fentanyl usually comes from, Venezuela. So it's complicated like that. And then Trump has said now they've shot so many boats up that the boats aren't running anymore. So now he's going to have to go on in the ground, make ground attacks. And he has sent a lot of military to the area. I think like over 1,000 military that include like nuclear submarines and Air Force, what do you call them? Fighter boat things. I can't think what they're called. Aircraft carriers. And so it's all very strange. It's all very strange. So I don't know. And I just was afraid the comments would become more than I could handle right now because I just didn't know if I felt like dealing with that. But that's sort of the gist, if you're curious. I think that's sort of, but a lot of it's maybe not legal because we're not at war, and they're just shooting people and they don't have, how do we know that they're actually drug cartel and not fishermen, whatever. So, I don't know. You can look into that. There's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, on his social media site, Trump says Venezuelan airspace is closed in its entirety. That's another thing. I mean, I don't think the president of the U.S. can do that. Can he? He could close airspace over the U.S. And what does that mean? Because they do have ways to shoot people down. So what does that mean? I don't know. President Trump warned airlines and pilots on Saturday that the airspace near Venezuela was closed, ratcheting up what his administration has characterized as a war against drug cartels. In a post to social media, all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, the president wrote, that the airspace above the surrounding Venezuela should be considered closed in its entirety. He did not go into further detail. The United States could very soon expand its attacks on boats thought to be carrying drugs in the waters off Venezuela to targets inside the country itself. The U.S. boat strikes have killed more than 80 people since early September. As President of the United States, Mr. Trump has no authority over Venezuelan airspace, but foreign governments and airlines often follow the United States' lead. So, I don't know. Good grief. That's a lot of story. That's a lot. Okay. Trials showed how ex-leader of Honduras flooded U.S. with cocaine. So maybe that's what's coming up from South America is mostly cocaine. Because I thought they've said fentanyl, but I think fentanyl's coming in from Asia and it goes through Mexico. Because I started looking into that one time. Anyway, whatever. Okay. Honduras take to polls to elect a new president. All right. Where seas are rough, fishing town confronts Trump's priorities. Community members applauding 14-year-old April Aldama after she spoke about her father, who was recently arrested by ICE at a town hall in Newport. This is in Oregon. Look how beautiful. Ugh, I want to go there. It's so pretty. The I don't know how to say this, but Yakina Lighthouse in Newport, Oregon, overlooks a rugged coast where king tides, sneaker waves, and storm surges post a unique array of dangers. Yeah, I bet. Look at that. So beautiful. You just don't have time to get partisan when you're in the commercial fishing business, said Gary Ripka, a Trump voter with doubts about his policies. I'm not really sure what all that's about, but a town in West Virginia is bound together in grief. Town clinging to coal-crusted mountains in the middle of the state. And for many of the 700 or so people who call it home, that is part of the appeal. I like the isolation, said Edith Tenney, 49, who works at Vicky's restaurant, one of a handful of eateries in the town. It's quiet and there are a lot of good people here. Everyone knows one another. Grief bound the community more tightly after one of its high school graduates, Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, a 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard member, was shot in Washington on Wednesday. She died of her injuries on Thursday. That's terrible. 20 years old. And then the other one, Sergeant Andrew Wolf, Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, of West Virginia. I hope he's doing okay. I haven't heard about him today. Yeah. Afghans who assisted U.S. underwent rigorous vetting. Oh, this is, okay, they're talking about that because I don't know if the shooter was part of the group who helped the CIA and was vetted. I've seen stories that say, like, these Afghanistan people, Afghans, were helping the CIA and they were fully vetted and everything. And then they were told they're going to be, I don't know what, denied their residency or whatever you call it, and sent back. Well, if they go back, now they're enemy number one because they were helping the CIA. And so maybe that's why the guy got crazy and shot these two innocent National Guard members. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the whole story. I don't even know if they know that yet. But I think that's why this story is under this story. The CIA diligently helped Afghans who had served in agency-sponsored units, like the man accused of shooting two National Guard members in Washington, navigate the U.S. immigration system, according to a former American official familiar with the process. The CIA has not commented on the vetting process that brought the man, Ramanullah Lakhanwal, to the United States, and the former U.S. official spoke on condition of anonymity, given the classified nature. Wait a minute, I gotta go back. Hold on, let me read this. Okay, the United States and former anonymity, classified nature, where were we? But the agency's director, John Ratcliffe, has faulted the Biden administration's vetting of Mr. Lakhanwal and said he, quote, should never have been allowed to come here. Mr. Lakhanwal is accused of killing one of the National Guard members and critically wounding the other in an attack on Wednesday. So, whether he was properly vetted or not is a question. The CIA routinely wrote classified letters to add to immigration files to help members of its partner forces in Afghanistan win approval for asylum or parole claims, one of the officials said. Boy, I don't know. All right. Attempt at self-deportation put her in a detention center. And there's a big 2-page spread on that story. Man, I may have to go through the rest of this paper tomorrow. This is taking me a while. Elite unit of Justice Department sees exodus despite its victories. The Supreme Court above is the single focus of the Office of Solicitor General, which has long been regarded as set apart from the rest of the justice system. I gotta be honest, Office of Solicitor General, I need to look into because I don't know. State Department ups capacity to process Korean visas. Escalating electricity bills help drive a political shift. I should look at my electric bill. You know, I have it on auto pay. And so I don't look at it. But I run a kiln in my house, and that has generally cost about $18 each time I run it. and I haven't run it lately, so my bill's probably lower than usual, but it'd be interesting to see, to run it, because that's a good way I can tell exactly how much my bill's gone up right now. Anyway, FDA proposes broad changes for oversight of vaccine trials and approvals. Experts question a memo linking COVID shots to death. Yeah. The Trump administration is casting more doubt on the safety of vaccines with an internal memo from the Food and Drug Administration linking the deaths of at least 10 children to the COVID vaccine and proposing new regulatory measures as a result. The findings have not been published in a peer-reviewed medical journal, drawing suspicion from some critics of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has repeatedly criticized the COVID shots as deadly, despite the scientific consensus that they are safe. The COVID vaccine, like many other immunizations, carries some health risks in certain cases, and mainstream scientists have been studying the vaccine's effects on people for years, especially the incidence of myocarditis in teenage boys and young men. So they kind of talk about both sides. There are people saying, oh, yeah, they're terrible, and there are people saying, oh, no, they're fine. You guys can look into all that. Tom Stoppard. Okay, so these are pictures of the playwright Tom Stoppard. He looks like a playwright, doesn't he? Got that look to him. Yeah, these are more about the stories we already looked at. What is that? Gen Z gets the mumblecore Shakespeare it craves. Oh no. Is this about Hamnet? Is this bad or good? What's mumblecore? What does that mean, mumblecore? I want it to be good. The new film Hamnet features two bright young actors, Paul Mescal, I should know how to say Mescal, and Jesse Buckley, playing Shakespeare and his wife. Agnes Anne Hathaway. His wife, Agnes Hathaway. Oh, Shakespeare's wife was named Agnes Hathaway, but went by Anne. Oh, was Anne Hathaway named after? I don't know. Anyway, Hamnet arrives already widely lauded. It won the Audience Award at the Toronto International Film Festival and has been sending millennial cinephiles into critical paroxysms. I don't know. Not to be hyperbolic. Oh my God. I can't say any word right now. But this movie contains the actual meaning of life. What? Wrote one reviewer on Letterboxd. Holy smokes. The actual meaning of life. All right. I'm not going to read all this because I don't really like spoiling, but maybe I'll see if husband will go see it with me and we could do a review. But we like movies. Like, it's hard for us. I don't know. It's kind of hard for us to not like a movie. We like movies. Democrats need a plan for AI. This is the what opinion? Yeah. The salmon that surprised everyone. Nature can recover fast if we give it a chance. That does seem to be true, doesn't it? Okay. Female surgeons vow to unlock male fortress. Oh. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. This is probably a story about how most of these kind of surgeons are men. And now there's some women coming in, so that's interesting. I remember not very long ago when all my, let's just say, women's health, like when you're having a baby or gynecology, they were all men, all men. Now, I wouldn't dream of going to a man. I like search out women doctors for that kind of stuff. But it used to be there just weren't any women you could go to. Now there are all these great young women doctors. That's cool. And that's just because I'm more comfortable. Like, come on, guys. You can understand that, right? All right. I think I'll have to look at this tomorrow or something because I got to wash my hands. They have black ink on. And I think I got to go make some dinner. I know it's kind of late today. Actually, I have no idea what time it is. I've lost track of time. All right, guys. I will talk to you soon. I wonder what kind of things are in the business. Maybe it's not very